that have been going on. We also have our very own Susan Rubalcava's quest to get to the bottom of PUB, and in her quest uh, to unravel all the details that have been going on. Well, she was given a hefty bill, but nonetheless, happy to be here. I hope to have a few friends of mine come on tonight. But if not, it's always a pleasure to be before you tonight. Good evening, Joe. Thank you for tuning in. Um, Hope you have a good night, my man. Thanks so much for following. Ben, how's it going, Ben? You did ask the question, Ben, not too long ago, if I had gotten more information regarding those things that we talked about over that phone call. I'm still looking at it, so please be patient with me. But I will get back to you. How's it going, Gallegos? Nice to see you, my man. Hope to see you very soon. Say hello to the family for me. Also, can't forget. How could I forget the World Cup? To me, this is bigger than the Super Bowl. The World Cup is today won today, and I'm pretty about sports. There were games going on at 4 in the morning. Uh, I would wake up at 4 in the morning. I wouldn't get no sleep. But for the love of the game. Good evening, Beatriz. How are you this evening? Thank you for tuning in. Um, I got two. I got two screens going on. I'm currently on Erasmo's pages, plural pages, and I'm also on my own page, the late night show. So don't tell them I told you, but go to my page, go to the Frankie Olivo page. I'm gonna take my own advice, um, and I'm gonna share my own page. What's up, Robert? How's it going? A lot to talk about. A lot has been going on, and the topic, the big topic throughout the city of Brownsville is uh, the recount. As we all know, the election early 2 weeks ago, earlier this month, uh, there was there was some questions in regards to some discrepancies regarding the voter turnout. And one thing that we can all agree upon was that the the numbers just didn't seem to jive. Now, in place one, where Mr. Carlos Elizondo um, came out on top in that race, it was hard um, to show the discrepancies. But when we take a look at the race of place four, place two, and place four, we have Denise Garza and Frank Ortiz having very similar numbers, and the percentages are identical, 48-52. Now, why do we bring this up? Well, because it is hard for one to believe that over 10,000 people voted Elizondo for place one, Denise Garza for place two, and Frank Ortiz for place four. Now, you may say it could happen, but when you really think about it and sit down and look at the odds of over 10,000 people voting for those three individuals, again, let me remind you, the CEO slate was very strong. And it was shocking. At least I'll use my words. It was shocking to note how Mr. Caballero didn't win his race. Now, does voter fraud exist? You better believe it. Now, what we have been seeing on the national stage has been a lot of questions, and many people have stated, there is voter fraud out there. And one case in particular is Maricopa County uh, in Arizona. That election is mirrored in a lot of controversy. And I know what you're saying, Frankie. You're all about controversy. You're all about conspiracy theory. But when you really get down to the gist of the situation in Maricopa County, there was more Republicans that were registered to vote, but unfortunately, there wasn't the numbers that the Republicans expected in Maricopa County. And in regards to here at BISD, what is important to note, and Yasmin is correct regarding Harris County, but there have been a lot of discrepancies, Susan, at the national level in Maricopa for the midterm elections, and also here locally for BISD. Good evening, Susan. How's your evening going?
Oh, it's good. It is awesome.
Now, what are your thoughts in regards to the recount? I've heard individuals say, "Why is this individual spending $31,000 in a race in which he lost over 4 to 5 thousand votes?" What's your take on that? Do you think that voter fraud exists here locally?
You know what? I wouldn't, I don't want to say that because I had never been involved in the elections before until I helped with Jessica's campaign. And at that point, I was a poll watcher and I watched them do the counts and stuff, and it seemed pretty legit. It seemed very organized at that moment. But today's experience was a little different for me. And I don't know that so much it would lead to fraud, but it for me it was a bit disorganized. Um, I didn't think that the recount. Well, right now they're just sorting, right? But I just felt like the city should have um, a different method in place for sorting. It if we're going back only when there's a recount requested and sorting by precinct, then how are they double checking anything? I mean, these ballots, these early vote ballots, they were just all jumbled up together in boxes and boxes. And I mean, you're talking about 72 people there sorting. I mean, that to me, that just could lead for many errors. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but and I hope that there's not that kind of fraud here. But I just think it's inevitable in every place. I
Um,
really do.
and you are correct. And just to give the viewers a little insight, over 30,000 ballots were casted in that particular race. So today, the poll watchers, I was there for a bit. I expected a lot more action, but unfortunately there wasn't. But today, um, the poll watchers, what they did is they organized all the different precinct ballots by precincts.
Right.
So it is gonna take a few days. So we do anticipate, Susan, Thursday, possibly Friday, of us knowing the results. And just think about this, guys. Over 30,000 ballots are going to be counted by hand, one by one. And all these polls, you're going to be able to see, okay, is this in fact a race in which Mr. Denise Garza won? And one thing, Susan, that you did bring up in regards to fraud. Now, we have heard a lot of things, oh, dead people vote. We've heard of not too long ago in the Marisa Leal Minerva Peña race, in which there was a warehouse or a property that had 10 plus votes. So there is voter fraud, but just how you said earlier, I wish, I wish, I hope and pray that this is not true, because then why do we vote if we're going to have people
Right.
switching the numbers? Now, is it far fetched to think, Susan, that because according to Mr. Caballero, is it far fetched to think that the numbers or the names were switched?
I mean, if if you listen to the explanation that Victor has and why he is concerned about that, then the answer is no. Um, I don't know Denise's following very well. If it's a great following, and her campaign team and how she ran her floor game, her ground game. Um, but if you look at just the way that he ran with Elizondo and with Mr. Ortiz, then it seems very suspicious that the numbers are practically flipped. But again, we won't know until those numbers are counted. And I think that it might be a little earlier than what you stated, because when I left at closer to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they were pretty much finishing up the early voting sorting. So that means now, then they just need the mail-in votes and the election day votes, and that's a lot less than the early voting ballots. So I would say more towards the in part of tomorrow, late afternoon tomorrow, they may start actual counting.
Now, and one friend of mine, he did state, he said, well, I don't think Mr. Ortiz should go through because the Democratic Party was pushing for Denise a lot, and I don't remember the Democratic Party or Miss Denise Garza's name out there. All I heard was CEO. So it's kind of hard for me to believe that over 10,000 people voted for for Elizondo Ortiz and Miss Denise Garza. But again, could it happen? Of course it can. But there was just a lot of questions. Like, I didn't see her really into it. Like, I didn't see her camp out there pushing hard. Maybe they were in working the campaigns, but she looked defeated. She looked deflated. Her camp on the day of election left early. They left like at 3 or 4. So a lot of friends of mine were throwing these ideas at me and saying, maybe there is something to it. And we did hear through the grapevine that somebody said, you know what, I'm glad Mr. Caballero did this because, this has been happening for far too long.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually left today too. They left early. They probably left around 11 for lunch and didn't come back till, I want to say, almost 1 or 2. And of course, his team was there, and he had, I don't know, 14, 15 people there that were, we didn't leave. We stepped out to grab a sandwich that was right there in the hallway that, he graciously supplied for us. But other than that, these guys left out to lunch and didn't come back for hours. I'm glad he did it too, because even though it might be pricey for him, it's something that the city needs to be aware of, that we have our eyes on them on our, now, and there's more and more people stepping up and speaking out, and that needs to continue, and they need to be aware of it. They hate it when there's a count. They hate when there's a count request. But that's the job. That's the job, and that's what you were appointed to do as an elections officer, and that's what you need to do. So I really hope that they understand that we're out there really keeping our eye on them now.
Now, if we can go back very quickly, the exact same issue happened with Marisa Leal and Minerva Peña, and that currently is
still going on
in litigation. Now, that has been 2 years, Susan. 2 questions here. Do you anticipate that Miss Marisa Leal and Miss Minerva Peña's case will drag on up until the next election, and it's just gonna be like, oh well, next election whoever runs? And also, do you anticipate this race having the same fate?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that one because it was one vote, right? One vote difference. Hopefully this one won't be that close. What the scary part of that, Frankie, is that it happened already. You know what I mean? It happened already. There was already this recount done, with Marisa and with Minerva, and it was wrong. And that's real scary, because then you really never know. People think 1 or 2 votes are no big deal. Why are you going to recount for 15, 20 votes? But here, that's real major, because I'll tell you, today I looked at the paperwork, and the paperwork said 104,000 registered voters. 30,000 voted. 29%. The races here are close. You can win with just 100 people voting, or lose. And so, I mean, that one was 1 vote. That's super close. We'll see what happens with this one.
Now, and you said it very well. One would think that we would learn from this, and that case, that Marisa Leal, was very, very telling, because we had Marisa Leal sworn in as a BISD trustee, only to come back and miraculously the elections office found 12 votes that declared Miss Minera Peña the winner. So there have been a lot of controversy surrounding the elections department. You would think that they would keep a tight ship. Now, what would this case tell us? Now, if there is some discrepancies, something funny is going on in the elections department. Now, are we pitting this on Mr. Remy Garza? It'd be interesting to hear what he has to say. But maybe there's a mole. Maybe there's somebody inside that is fixing the numbers. And one thing that I want to bring up to you, Susan, is that during the last recount, AOBE stated that when they were getting the ballots, that they noticed that Daniela Lopez Valdez's race was the only one circled in with all the other races. And again, this is a presidential election with over 20 races on the ballot. So it's just a lot of things that make you question, how could it be that that a certain candidate was the only bubbled in, was the only one filled in, with all the other rest of the races weren't even considered. So does voter fraud exist? You better believe it, ladies and gentlemen. But for the sake of democracy, for the sake of Brownsville, Cameron County, I hope that's not the case. But only time will tell.
No, I mean I think we all know, Frankie, and it's just a matter of these people being caught and indicted and convicted of voter fraud, but we all know it exists. I mean, we know that there is people picking up these elderly people and busing them to the centers, the polling places to vote. Absolutely, mail-in votes can be manipulated. That's a classic example of going and just bubbling in one person. It's gonna happen. How to catch that? That's the issue, and that really doesn't have anything to do with Remy, unless he's absolutely aware of it. It's gonna have to be grabbing these people that are doing this kind of stuff.
Now, again, for the sake of democracy, for the sake of the republic, we hope that this isn't true. But could I get a percentage, Susan, of how you anticipate this coming out? Do you think Victor Caballero has something? Could you give me a percentage of how you're feeling right now?
Most of the ballots that we were able to just kind of glance at, I did see Denise's name checked off. And if I didn't see Denise's name, obviously it was Victor's. And if it wasn't Victor's, it was weirdly blank. So Carlos, might have been bubbled in, and Mr. Ortiz bubbled in, and then the middle was blank, which I thought was real odd on some of them. But I guess that's just the way some people voted. But again, I was, like I said, there was 12 tables there and thousands of votes. So, and then I'm just hoping that, early voting, it tends to be a different type of person that votes. Most of the people, I think, waited till election day this time in particular. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, when I reviewed the paperwork, she was ahead in every single precinct except one. And I think in that one, he had beat her by 10 votes only. It is, for those of us that know that trifecta that was running, it's really
odd.
Yeah, for lack of a better word, it's odd. Is it, did it happen? Who knows? But it is very odd. So yeah, we'll see. I mean,
and again, it's difficult for one to go through this, but maybe this is necessary. Maybe what we found out in the previous recount and this recount, maybe we will find something funny going on. So it's important for us to go through the process. We if we believe in democracy, if we believe in the election process, let's wait and see. But this is going to be very telling. This is going to be either another black guy for Cameron County, or this is going to be just simply Denise Garza winning her race outright. But whatever the case may be, it is going to be very telling on Thursday, and whenever we get the results. The last thing we would need, Susan, is another form of conspiracy, another form of corruption going on in our backyard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Now, regarding the elephant in the room for the city of Brownsville, which is PUB, you were recently shocked to receive a certain receipt. Susan, could you tell us a little bit more of the story behind that?
Yeah. So when all the Tenasca started, I began to ask for through public information's requests for several items related to the audit, knowing that otherwise we wouldn't have that, as so that I could release it to the public and everybody could see what's going on. So I basically asked for everything Tenasca related, all of the emails, all of the text messages, all of the vendors, the vendor payments. And you can see that on my post. So we went back and forth for, I want to say, a good month on clarification. They wanted clarification on what I was asking. So after we finished all of the clarification, then they said they would send me a response, fairly soon. And I received that response. So the response I received was, okay, where you're asking for Tenasca related emails, there's over 300,000 emails from the 2012 all the way to the 2022 timeframe that I asked for. There's over 2,000 payments to vendors, 100 vendors, no text messages, or at least they say they don't have access to the text messages. So my charge and all of that was going to be $2,500 or $520, whatever it is, for the labor that was going to be required to get all that information together and redact whatever they have to redact. And so that's where I stand right now. I have three choices. I can either revise my request, I can decline the request completely, cancel it, or I can pay it, or actually I can also appeal it to the AG, which I will send it. I probably will send it to the AG regardless. I think I'm going to go ahead and I started the GoFundMe so that I can raise some funds for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and pay, but I'm still going to send it to the AG along with a beautiful copy of the audit. That way he'll see why I requested it. And I requested the same thing from the city, but from the city, I requested all of the addendum paperwork that they received from the audit. So anything that CRI requested and sent, to the city with the conclusion audit, the conclusion paperwork, I asked for that. And they want to charge me $325 for that. So, ridiculous, but.
Now for our community, we will be sharing, if we haven't already, we will be sharing the GoFundMe page. It's a little bit over $2,000. And also we're having a little fundraiser, a little raffle, if you will, of an art painting that is worth a little bit over close to $3,000. And I believe the tickets are going for $10, if I'm not mistaken, Susan?
I think so, yeah.
I believe it's $10. So again, if anybody would like to help out, and again, we all got to do our own part. The city of Brownsville has the likes of Susan, of Erasmo Castro, of Maggie, of Kayla, of people who have been vocal about what has been going on. And many people have asked me, Frankie, how can I participate? How can I be part of it? And I said, well, you can join us at the meetings. And they said, you know what? Because of my family, because of my work, I can't go. What else can I do? Well, this is another way for us to take part. It's important for us to recognize the strength in numbers. we're going up against a machine, which is the city of Brownsville and PUB with this Tenasca deal. So we kindly ask if you would like to take part of the process, a $10 donation, a $20 donation, anything helps. And we do this because, as Susan says, it's going to get paid, but we want to give other people a chance to be part of the process. Again, there are strength in numbers, so we kindly ask our community that you do help out, pitch in. Together we can show the city of Brownsville that we do mean business. Because I feel, Susan, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel as if they're kind of like, they're already given up. And because again, this is a long process. And I think that, by us maybe not going to every meeting and not being as vocal, maybe they thought, oh, maybe they forgot already. Is that the sense that you're getting from our city leadership?
Now, I think that I feel, what I feel is a lot of people are very impatient, which they totally have every right to be. But everything has a process to it. Any type of action that's going to be taken can't be taken overnight. They couldn't reach into the bank account and write everybody a check from one day to the next. It's just impossible. They have to figure out how they're going to do it the right way. Are they stalling? Maybe. But as long as we keep them on their toes and don't give up, then change is going to happen one way or another. We're going to be refunded for sure, the $29 million. They can't even get out of that anymore. They've already admitted that they have that money left. They've admitted it's in an equity account. They admitted that it's ready to give back to the people. How they do that, they need some time to figure it out. But $29 million for sure is coming back to us. The $11 million that the city took, I don't know if they need to vote on that. I haven't seen that come up in agenda yet. I'm not even sure if they have to or if they've even agreed to give it back. If they do, that's another $11 million. That's for sure coming back. So we already succeeded in that. It's getting the other part back. And it's also finding out what the hell happened. And that's where all of this emails and vendor payments and all of that will come into play once we get all that information together.
And Luis is correct. Susan Shirley a while ago just alluded to that we want instant change. We want instant gratification. We want this done now. But again, this was 10, 15 years in the making. So there's a lot of information, Susan, a lot of emails, a lot of messages, texts that were sent out. So I could just imagine the voluminous paperwork that you have already received, and just the amount of stacks of paper that you're going to get after this request. Now, Susan, in your opinion, what's your take on the mayor announcing that he's not going to be running for the position? Do you think any of this Tenasca fiasco had anything to do with it?
I can't speak for Mendez, but I told him, I said, oh, gosh darn it, we're just barely seeing eye to eye, Mayor, and I was going to run for office and sit next to you. He just kind of sent me an emoji. I know office is difficult. Being in office is difficult, and he's been under the spotlight and under our hammers for the last several months. I know it takes a lot of time away from your personal and professional life. And I think that he's just he's done with that. He's developed his businesses while in office, and he's ready to just take care of them and get back into his law firm. He can make plenty of money doing that. He liked to throw it in our faces a lot about not being paid and not having to be available 24/7. So I think that played a big part in his decision.
And again, it is difficult for us to say, what has he done? But COVID did hit our area hard, and it's very difficult to be in office during those difficult times. But as many have alluded to, you just said his businesses. What do we have seen from leadership as of late has been, focusing on paving the roads downtown, focusing on downtown, on focusing on his businesses. While Susan, we still have a lot of upkeep in the city of Brownsville. We still have flooding issues. We still have uh, holes in the street, potholes in the street. You and I can agree that there are a lot of work that needs to be done. It just seems as if this leadership, and past and present, have been so focused on their own pet projects, and it seems as if it's always uh, a scheme. You and Erasmo have been after the Tanasca scheme, which was horrible because it's one of the poorest areas in the nation. Now, what does this leads us to believe? If we have just recently, Susan, there is a Guinness Book of World Records for adopting dogs. Now, before I get messages, I'm all, I love animals, but Susan, you and I can agree we have a lot more pressing issues than adopting dogs. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think my biggest issue with the current leadership is priority. What their priority is not, at least my opinion, what the priority of the people are. Downtown area, all our focus and energy in that. Things like this pet project, Guinness Book of World Record. I think I don't know which commissioner commented that they've been trying to put Brownsville on the map nationally. And this is the way they're going to do it, by winning. Such a waste, such a waste of energy and time. And, that, like I said, my biggest priority would be, my biggest problem is priority.
And again, we love animals, but that there was individuals that said, we do have a problem, individuals that could really use our help. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to rescue dogs. We encourage individuals to adopt a pet, but you said it best: priorities. Where are the priorities for the Brownsville leadership? It has been in everything else besides what their role should be, which is to look after the well-being, and to provide a better quality of life for the residents of Brownsville. It just goes to show, Susan, that individuals don't run. In my opinion, I won't bring you into this, but in my opinion, it feels as if these individuals run for personal gain. We have two commissioners, Golonsky and Cowan, that spend well over $100,000 on a position that pays zero. One would think, oh wow, they really want to help out, or as we have come to find out, oh, they really want to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I, again, I have not run for office, but I can't, in my head, fathom, even if I have the money in my pocket to spend that amount of money on a campaign. I mean, regardless of what it pays, right? But just to spend that amount of money on a campaign, when, if you're in your heart, in your head, you're there to serve the people, then the people should vote you in. If they don't, then they don't want you there. It's that simple. Um, I can't imagine spending $100,000 on a city commission campaign. There's got to be something tied to that.
And again, Brownsville has been in the news for all the wrong reasons for these past decade, or as long as I could remember. So it's important for us to really vet candidates moving forward. So there are going to be three positions. Correct me if I'm wrong, Susan. There's going to be the mayor position, precinct, District 2 with Commissioner Jessica Tetreault, and John Cowan at large, and Golonsky for southmost area, place one, district one. Um, what do you anticipate? And again, it's a hypothetical question, but do you anticipate any current commissioners throwing their hat in for the mayor position?
I've heard rumors on both Tetro and Golonsky, to be honest with you. Um, I mean, I Golonsky can still run again as a commissioner. Tetro cannot. So I would see her going after it a little harder than Golonsky would. But I did hear about those two for sure.
Now, Susan, we previously talked about BISD, and we did see, according to the voters, that well, we still don't know the outcome of the official outcome of place two, but we saw the voters. They didn't vote the incumbents in. As of right now, the only one is Ms. Denise Garza, which is currently in the process. But we saw that the voters wanted change. What's your anticipation of? I got a message. Jessica Golonsky running 100% confirmed. Wow, that's.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I just got a text message. Jessica Golonsky, because they heard you make that statement. They said Jessica Golonsky running 100% confirmed for their mayor position.
Ooh.
So that's going to be very interesting. My question, Susan, is we saw how BISD rejected the incumbents. What's your take on the city? Do you think that the voters will want back a Golonsky that has been tied and that was once the PUB chairwoman? Do you think the voters would want change, or do we anticipate a similar face winning once again?
You know, I wish I could say that with 100% certainty, but then we have Eddie Trevino getting voted back in. So I would hope that they would want change, because the current leadership hasn't proven to be faithful for the people. But we have to educate the voters. We really do. I think that's the biggest flaw in Brownsville, is that the voters, they're still voting based off of, the compadre system. I know them. My daughter knows them. My grandma knew them. I got a chicken plate here. I got an enchilada plate over here. Or they vote by recognition, name recognition. I see that it's a Trevino, it's a Golonsky, it's a Cowan, whatever it is. That's got to stop. They need to start paying attention and understanding. And there's still a lot of people in Brownsville, thousands of people that don't know what's going on with PUB. Can you imagine if we were just to go door to door and say, this is what's going on? And then the different things that happen within the commission meeting, little things where this person gets, this family member gets money, or that family member gets a contract, or this best friend gets a contract for millions to do something for the city. If they knew all that was going on, they may vote differently. Right now, they're not voting like that because they're not educated.
Now, I'm not sure if you saw, but on Boca Chica, currently right now, or earlier today, the lines were congested. I don't know if you saw pictures of an accident or a few accidents within the city today. And Yasmin brings up an excellent point. We only have 7 ambulances for the city of Brownsville, which, on paper, this is on paper, the city of Brownsville has a population of 185. I'm guesstimating that we're closer to 220, 215-ish. Again, in my personal opinion. Do you think that we do need more manpower, Susan, out in the streets, more ambulances and more police officers?
I'm not ambulances. I think we probably could evaluate somebody probably in that division. I haven't really spoken to them. Absolutely. From what I understand, there's very scary at night and during the day. And I don't know if it's a budget issue or if it's an issue of salary and we can't get enough police officers hired. And that's something that needs to be looked into. And I'm sure that they would be open to discuss that. Um, and if that's what's happening, also, I mean, we're only growing. Right? We're growing to the north. How far? Let's see. The furthest north fire and ambulance would be at Valley Regional, if I'm not mistaken. So think about a little further north. I don't think there's anything in that area. So we probably should think about that.
And you are correct. Brownsville is growing towards Olmito Los Fresnos, and even on the and even what is this, the west side going towards the border. Brownsville is growing at a very rapid pace, and it seems as if our leadership hasn't adapted to the increase in population. And once you have more population, Susan, you have more need. There is uh, more need for jobs. Now, it just goes to show that, again, pet projects. What are our priorities? I hope with this new election in May that we do have individuals that will be working for the people. It is important for us to recognize, that Brownsville has a lot to offer. We got 2 ports, we got 2 beaches. We can really put Brownsville on the map. SpaceX has done that for us to a certain extent, but more can be done. But it's just a matter of getting rid of corruption. And going back, Susan, if I may, going back, do you think that these 2 females, if this text message that I just got is accurate, and to your understanding that Ms. Golonsky, Commissioner Golonsky, and Commissioner Tetreault will be running for the mayoral position, do you think that having 2 females and 2 incumbents running would split the vote for other voters?
Absolutely. Yeah, because they still have their followers regardless. You have those people that are just faithful to the end, regardless of the action that has been taken by these people in these positions during their 4 or 8 year tenure, or 6 years, whatever Golonsky has right now. They're going to be faithful. They'll have their voters that will follow them, and they will split the vote between other people that could possibly do, a better job, get those votes. I'm kind of surprised that they're both running, but
I would think that obviously the only person that, in my opinion, that should run for it is because of obvious reasons is Commissioner Tetreault. She has no other choice but to jump ship because of the term limits. My question is, Commissioner Golonsky, as of right now, there is no other candidate out there. The only one that I can think of is the former commissioner, Rick.
Rick running.
Yeah, running no more. So it would be in her best interest to stay in that position. And the mayor position isn't like in other cities. It's just 1 vote. So it's hard for me to believe that Commissioner Golonsky would jump ship when essentially it is the mayor position is one of the same of city commission. Am I correct?
Yeah, as far as voting power, you're in the same boat as everybody else. I mean, you just have a different title. There may be a few different things, like he serves on the PUB board, but that's only because of the charter. That's not because of his position. So I would say that, for anybody that wants to be in that position, it would be a lot easier for her just to stay as an incumbent. But Tetreault's the only one that makes is logical.
Again, it's going to be very interesting. And again, we have 4 seats coming up. 4 seats coming up for this city race. So this could change, Susan. This could change the dynamics. Obviously, going to change the dynamics on that board. So it's going to be very important for us to vet the candidates, to be part of the electoral process. That way, we can have candidates who are like-minded and who are going to look out for the best interests of us all. But again, anything could happen in these races, as we have previously seen.
Mhm.
Now, going back to PUB, um, what's your take on the committee that was formed? Um, they are starting to meet now on Wednesdays, if I'm not mistaken, every Wednesday. Tomorrow at 5:30. I believe the audience, they are able to have public comments. The audience is able to go. I will be streaming it live for those that aren't able to be present. How do you anticipate um, moving forward? How this charter review committee will play out? Do we really have? Do the citizens of Brownsville have hope in this current committee that was established?
Tomorrow will be the first time I speak to them. I will be submitting for public comment to them. Um, the last meeting, well, the meeting I watched, because there's been two or three, it was a mess, a complete mess. And I talked to Vito on the show about that, how it just looked like a ping pong match. Everybody was throwing out all these different ideas. Nothing was really getting stated and discussed concretely. It was just crazy. Um, they need to organize that meeting. They need to organize it, and they need to get their ducks in a row on what they need to vote on, because they're on they're on a timer here. They got to get that stuff out for the vote for the people. And the only reason that CRC was revised was to take care of the board members for PUB and give the city more power on what they can do to put them in and out. And then second to that, I would say would be more control over the executive team at PUB. And then thirdly, I would say it would need to be more oversight, financial oversight, and maybe some personnel oversight for PUB. Um, those are three easy things that they need to figure out how to write that charter so it can be voted on. Some of the stuff that was just being discussed was crazy. So do I have hope? Yes, but they need to be organized. And that needs to be done with this vote coming up in May. They can't prolong that. That needs to be done and ready.
It's going to be interesting to see what changes or what is actually going to be on that ballot for the Brownsville residents to vote on. And the interesting thing, and you alluded to it, was I'm not sure who it was that stated that there does not need to be a change to the city charter, which kind of shocked us all because in reality we all know that there is no oversight, that these PUB board has been running amok, and they have more power, Susan, that those individuals that actually run for office, which is hard for me to believe, and it's hard for them to answer the question of saying, "Oh, well, I can't do nothing about it because of the charter." Well, then why did we vote for you? Then we should have elections for the PUB board members. But again, the machine, the mafias that we currently have right now would control that as well. So Brownsville right now is currently in a very dire situation that is very important for us to listen of what is going on, because I honestly think, Susan, that this committee was just established just to shut us up, just to say, oh, look, we're doing something. Y'all wanted a committee. Y'all wanted to be part of the process. Here you go. But then we find out live on Erasmo's show that we have individuals that are tied to the previous administration. Those individuals that got us into this mess. So do I have hope? The only reason I have hope for is again, but we hear a lot of support in their questions and in their comments in regards to the old previous administration. Have you caught that?
Support in like of the old.
Yes, like the young lady. I forget her name. The engineer that's on there, Mr. Vito Cardenas, is saying, "Oh, we don't need to do anything to the charter." There have been comments here and there that have made me thought, like, what the heck? Like, no change, get over it. And it just seems as if they're not willing to get to us.
Yeah. Well, always off of the facts. So I'll go back and study the meeting again, and the ones that I weren't able to attend, and see who's making what kind of comments, and call them out at the meeting tomorrow. And then suggest what they need to do, because they have quickly have forgotten why they were revived. And there needs to be changes to that charter. There needs to be changes to the city ordinances as well. And so I don't know if the city's going to put it in, or if there's an ordinance committee or who does that. But there's so much in there that is dinosaur old, and this being one of them. This issue probably would not have been prevented, but it would have definitely, we would have been able to react differently. It probably would have inevitably happened, because if bad people are going to do bad things. But like the city commission says, their hands are tied. Their hands are tied with what they can do with that board right now. Although we know that they can get rid of one member, and none of them have put it on the agenda to do.
Also, I should have kept the countdown of the famous 60-day vacation for your boy Brusniak. We're at day 45.
Well, I'm gonna say we're like 45 days in already.
So in the next 2 weeks, guys, we should have the suspension uplifted. We really don't know. Was this temporary? Was because we do have an interim right now that is filling in for Brusniak, but we really don't know the details. Is this a suspension and he's going to come back on board after the 60 days? Is he going to give us his? Because I think they allowed him time to prepare a defense, Susan, or get documents or information needed in order for him to make a presentation. Do we really have an idea of what is going to happen after the 60 days?
Mm-hmm. They haven't alluded to anything other than they have a meeting on 12/12, which seems to me that that's right around the 60-day time frame for him, for his suspension. But when they suspended him, it was so that they could review the audit material in depth, and maybe if they needed to get an outside person to do that as well. And then we hear he's back and forth building his case, but we're not sure what the case is, what he's building and for what, because there's been no charges, so I don't know what defense he's building, or against who, or who he's supposed to present that to. I would love to hear it, and I'd love to be right next to him when he says it. Maybe he should present it to the public at a forum or something. I'm sure the city of Brownsville can use the Brownsville Event Center or something, but that'd be great.
The lack of information that we have from that is very telling. Again, we do have conflicts of interest on the PUB board, which that hasn't been addressed. You would think that one of these commissioners that are saying, "Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this," would put this on the agenda and vote how everybody votes. We'll finally have an idea of where they stand. But it seems as if they're covering everybody's tracks. Now, is the FBI involved? Is there the Rangers involved? Is the district attorney involved? Now, again, these white-collar crimes are very, very convoluted, very expensive, because you do need forensic auditors. So it's a difficult task. We can all agree to that. But the lack of information, Susan, is very, very telling, because we don't know what's going to happen. And here we have individuals that talk about transparency, being transparent. Oh, you got the audit. Shut up. But no, the audit, Susan, led to many more questions. And it's very damning, whenever we have in the audit Brugiak's name, Martinez's name, and even still like that, we're not able to fire him for cause. That kind of has me with my head scratching. I don't understand that.
Yeah, whatever happens and whatever the board wants to say, or the people at PUB wants to say, or anybody in general that is trying to defend his position, he is the CEO. He is the ultimate responsibility of that company. Whatever happens under his direction is his responsibility. And Tenaska happened under his direction. He has to get the boot. He's got to go. And I can't imagine them bringing him back. But gosh, it won't be a surprise. That's for sure. It won't be a surprise.
Susan, after Eddie Trevino won the race, I said, you know what? The hell with it. Nothing is certain in life, death and taxes. But I thought that was a slam dunk. Obviously not.
Yeah, so, I think I was very disappointed in that too. I just think there was probably not enough time to spread the information. Again, I tell people all the time, not everybody has social media. It's our responsibility, our the ones that do, to make sure that our aunts that don't, our tios or tias or grandma or grandpas, everybody who votes in the family that doesn't have social media and doesn't get to read about this all day long, it's our responsibility to let them know. We have to do the informing of these people that don't have social media, don't read the newspaper, don't do any of that.
And you're absolutely correct. It's important for us to keep fighting that good fight, because at the end of the day, we have to want a better quality of life for us. And it's sad that the city of Brownsville has had so many black eyes, so much corruption in our area. The last thing we would need is another eyesore for the citizens of Brownsville. But Susan is correct. We need to do our part. Pitch in your $10. We will be sharing the GoFundMe page. And we ask of this, and Susan said it best, it's going to get paid. But we want individuals to be part of the process, because, again, this is going to be a long fight, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about years. This isn't something that's just they're just going to fold. Again, this took 10 to 15 years to create this scheme, and it's going to take another probably 3-4 years, Susan, honestly, to get to the bottom of this. There is, we are in the quest of going through litigation to try and recoup the 118, 135 that was taken from the citizens of Brownsville. So we encourage our friends and family to share the page. Susan said it best. We need to educate people. We need to remind people of what we're dealing with, and also give a $5 donation, give a $10 donation. Together, strength in numbers is the only way that we're going to be able to let these individuals know that we mean business, and we're not going to go away, and we're not. Now our hour is up. Susan, anything else you like to say?
No, I'll just feed off of that. The GoFundMe was set up so that we can get this information. The biggest thing that I'm looking for within this information is if they got an approval to use the funds to subsidize, or if they just made that decision on their own as an executive team, or did they go through the PUB board and the city commission. That's the most important information I'm looking for. And then obviously everything else is probably going to be great, but we need to get these reports. And so, go to my page and you'll see the comments that have the GoFundMe, and like Frankie says, $5, $10, $15, it'll be real fast. We'll get those funds real fast if you can just pitch in.
There you have it, folks. strength in numbers. Alone, we can't do this. A few of us can't do this. But if the city really wants change, if the city really wants to find out what happened to this money, we need to do our part. We are educating the community, but we also need to contribute a small donation to be able to get this information. That way, we can share it with the community,
Yeah.
just to let everyone know what we're dealing with. Thank you so much for your time and your attention, everybody. I think I might be back tomorrow. Depends on Erasmo's schedule, but if not, he will be with y'all throughout the week. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great Tuesday and have a better Wednesday. God bless.
Peace.